Thank you for joining us today. So we're going to spend the next half an hour or so just talking to you about Inisio Medical and specifically our Allegro Drive program, which is our client services entry-level program for aspiring account executives. So during that time, we'll talk to you a bit about who is Inisio Medical. We'll talk about the Allegro model as a whole, and also specifically the program and the recruitment process. And then throughout the next half an hour, we're also going to introduce you to one of our colleagues, Maria, who is one of the people who has been through the program, and she will just share some insights, and there'll be a chance as well for a Q&A at the end of this webinar. So just to start us off, I'm going to just do a few quick introductions. So just to introduce myself. So I am Anna, the Client Services Director of the Allegro programme. I've been with the Allegro team now for the past couple of years, but prior to that, I was part of the core business. So for 17 years, I've worked in Medcoms, started out as an account executive and built my career on that side of things before joining the Allegro programme, because I've always been really passionate about people development and training. So it was a really fantastic opportunity for me to get to join and support and lead these programmes. So over to Matt for a quick introduction.
Hi everyone, I'm Matt McGinley. I'm the Global Talent Acquisition Lead on the Allegro team. That's just a fancy way of saying I do the recruitment, essentially. I've seen there's quite a few people on the call already who are in process with us. You'll have already heard from me. Essentially what I do for anyone that isn't already in process, I help coordinate all the recruitment, do the screening, and very much involved in other parts of the assessment process. And it's great to see you all here today.
Okay, thank you, Matt. So just a recap of what we're going to cover in case you missed it and have only just joined. So we'll talk about Inisio Medical, we'll tell you a bit about the programme, and then Matt will also go through the recruitment process, as well as having the opportunity for that Q&A session at the end. So without further ado, I'll hand back over to Matt to talk to you a little bit about who we are at Inisio Medical.
Great, cool. So if you move on to the next slide, Anna. Thank you. So who is Inisio Medical? Well, we are the world's leading medical communications company. We're made up of these three agencies you'll see sort of on the middle right-hand side here, Ashfield Medcoms, Nucleus Global, and Apothecom. Now, Inisio Medical was created a few years ago as a result of a merger, and these three agencies were previously sort of separate Medcoms agencies. But then when we all came together, to form Inisio Medical. Now, the work we do in Inisio Medical is all underpinned by the team of specialists that work in Medistrava, which is like a sister company to Inisio Medical. We are pretty much the largest Medcoms agency globally. You'll see here we have just under 2,200 staff around the world, which is, a really, really big team. We have about 300 different clients. Our clients are all pharmaceutical and biotechnology companies. And we work with 19 of the world's top 20 global pharma companies. So we really do work with leading pharma and biotechs all around the world. And if you work with us, you can find yourself working on, blockbuster products, cutting edge treatments. Now, we have a lot of big brains in the business. You'll see here we have about 750 people with PhDs or equivalent level qualifications. So lots of very talented, well-qualified scientists. Although it's worth saying here that with our Allegro programs, we don't tend to prioritize people with advanced degrees, although certainly, it can be beneficial to have a PhD or an MSc in some circumstances. With Allegro, we're more than happy to look at folks with any level of degree in biomedical sciences. In terms of strategic hubs, we've got locations all across the world and about 23 different office locations. Although some people might want to know later on, we do operate sort of hybrid working around all our locations. Now, what is Medcoms? It's the big question. And, working in Medcoms, it's one of those areas where, if you're, at a family function or with friends at the pub and people are talking about what they do, it's really hard to sort of succinctly say what is Medcoms. But I'm going to try and do it for you now. In Medcoms, what we do is we help pharma and biotech companies communicate complex information relating to their drugs, therapy areas, and medical devices. Now, when it comes to sort of healthcare professionals, we also almost kind of act as a bridge between our clients and doctors, nurses, and pharmacists. So when new drugs are being launched, it's really important that the information about new drugs can be shared with various different audiences, and also that pharma companies can hear what healthcare professionals are experiencing on the ground. So we play a big role in sort of bridging the communications gap between doctors, nurses, pharmacists, and our clients. We also help to disseminate information regarding drugs that are in development. So when drugs are going through the clinical trial process, pharma companies tend to want to get information out there about the work that they're doing, and we facilitate that in a range of different ways. So what do we do in 1 year? We do an awful lot. So this slide will just give you, by the numbers, an idea of just the sheer volume of the work we do here at Inisio Medical. The number that always jumps out at me here is the 4,500 different publication plans and medical education projects. That's a lot of work. Also, lots of different sort of meetings and events. You'll see 1,000 plus satellite standalone investigator and training meetings, 500 advisory boards, which is a different type of meeting. I always like the sort of 940 plus slide presentations. I mean, one thing that agencies don't often tell you during the recruitment process is that there's an awful lot of PowerPoint in medcoms. So if you end up working here, your PowerPoint skills will really accelerate. I can guarantee that. And yeah, thanks, Anna.
Thanks, Matt. Okay, so over to me again, just to talk to you a bit about the programs that we offer here and give you a bit of background. So Allegro is a group of programs where we recruit, train and develop the talented people across the whole of Inisio Medical, as Matt was alluding to before. So just to give you a little bit more about our history. So Allegro Right was the first program that we started over 8 years ago now. And over that time, we've brought in almost 500 new hires across the UK and South Africa. So this is our program for aspiring medical writers. But what we're here to talk to you about today is our Allegro Drive program, which is our entry-level client services training program. And this started with Allegro Drive a couple of years ago, which was built on the backbone of some other programs that we offered across the business. And we've developed that to make it a dedicated program which spans across all 3 of the agencies. But we're not just about entry level as well. I think it's really important to note that beyond that, when you join us as a business, we're also focused on building future careers through our Allegro Excel program. And this really focuses on experienced medcoms professionals who really want to take their career to the next level. So in terms of what it looks like when you would join the program, how does the training work and how do we manage that? So if you were to join one of our entry-level programs, you receive training through a very much interactive and feedback-driven approach. This means that you're constantly working with trainers, managers, mentors, and they're giving you feedback to really help you to progress in your training and prepare you for being ready for working with your clients live. And we do this through a number of different ways. So it might be that we also get you to do individual and group tasks, which gives you a chance to put your skills into practice in a really safe learning environment. And also what's lovely about the way we approach this is that we bring in that peer-to-peer learning. So you would join as part of a cohort where you can learn from each other, but also you have a lot of interaction throughout the whole program with the other people in it. So for example, the trainers will be able to give you feedback and advice as well as you progress through. And we're really, really lucky to have a big team that is based all over the UK. Now, Allegro is our full-time role. And we have, like I say, many people based across the UK in different offices, which means that we will be giving training to you face-to-face at a number of these different locations throughout the programme as well. And a lot of the people within that you can see here on this slide have actually worked as part of the core business prior to joining the Allegro team. So we've got a really big wealth of experience that we can share when we create and deliver these programmes as well. So what would it mean to be part of our inclusive culture? Obviously, we have a number of very important elements to what we do. And we want to make sure that we are meeting our goals in terms of sustainability, being environmentally responsible and diversity inclusion. From a sustainability perspective, our offices are now all single-use plastic free. And what we're doing is working towards reducing our energy use in our office as well as offsetting our travel emissions. It's also important to say that we have a global DEI lead and reps across the Anesio medical divisions as well. And you can find out a little bit more about how we are building a more inclusive organisation by visiting our website. And there are some initiatives on there that will talk about our commitment to a sustainable future as well. But I think it's also really important to point out that we have a really inclusive culture. We want everybody to feel part of things. We have so many social activities going on all the time across the various offices. We have yoga classes and mindfulness sessions to kind of cocktail making classes and cake sales, as well as lots of sports clubs that you can join and team socials, things like drinks in the office after work, those sorts of things. So there's a lot going on all the time. So it's a really fun organisation to be a part of. So just to talk to you now a little bit more about what the actual programme involves and the role of client services and what your role would be as an associate account executive. So client services, I always like to view as kind of the glue that hold all those pieces together. So we are the facilitators of all the projects that we work on with our clients. So whilst we are face-to-face contact with the client, whether that's through Teams or directly with our clients, we work with them to bring together all the elements of a project, working with our internal stakeholders and external stakeholders to just make sure that we drive through everything from start to finish. This can be anything from the kickoff call with the client to developing the budget proposals, to creating the content, working alongside the medical writers, and to take it all the way through from the kickoff right to the end of the project. So we essentially make sure everything happens in the right place at the right time for our clients. So Allegro Drive really provides that solid introduction to medcoms as well, and helps you to understand what that role of client services is through the dedicated training that we offer alongside our on-the-job experience as associate account executives. And it really gives you that opportunity to build a network with your peers and colleagues from across the business as well. So the way it works is you'll be assigned to an account team from the start, which really enables you to get that hands-on experience. And then during the training phase, you'd be supported by a team, so a manager and also an Allegro mentor who can help to provide you with that coaching and feedback that you would need to help develop your career. So what does the programme look like? So it's a 6-month training phase where you would start as an associate account executive, and over the course of that time, you would build the skills that you need to progress to the role of AE at the end of the training programme. So you'd be allocated to an agency, as I mentioned from the start, which gets you the chance to work with the teams and get that hands-on experience, as well as having complementary training throughout the weeks 3 to 13. At the beginning, when we bring you into the programme, it's very much focused on building your understanding and knowledge of medcoms, what the role of client services is, and the core elements of your role, which would involve project management and financial management and working in collaboration with your teams. So the idea is that you're working very closely with experienced trainers who can help build your confidence in that project delivery and business skills. And then you spend the time in your teams really consolidating that learning. And as I mentioned previously, you're really well supported throughout this whole process, not only by the training team, but by a dedicated line manager. You also have a buddy who supports, who's been part of the programme in the past, so they can give you top tips about how to navigate things, where to find information, etc., as well as somebody from the Allegro team who can mentor you and support you throughout that journey as well. So these are some of the core areas that we will be training you in. So fundamentally, we focus really heavily on the project management and financial management side of things, because those are going to be the main bulk of what you're doing in your role. We also spend, as I mentioned before, quite a bit of time looking at what medcoms is, understanding the industry, understanding pharmaceutical companies and how we like to operate. And we spend a majority of time as well looking at communicating effectively with our clients and healthcare professionals. As I mentioned, you'll be the glue that holds all the pieces together, so you need to understand how to effectively communicate with all the various parties that you'll be working with. And then we also cover off core medical communications deliverables, so the sorts of projects that you'll actually be working in. We start to give you insights into what those might be and how to understand them and what you need to do to prepare to work on those sorts of projects. So what can you expect to be doing as an associate account executive? So you'll be working in an extremely fast-paced environment, ensuring that those projects are delivered to your clients efficiently and effectively. And you're instrumental in ensuring that all the pieces of those projects come together. It could be anything from managing things like timelines to supporting the day-to-day running of your account. So it's very much an account management role and project management role. You'll be the key point of contact for all your colleagues and clients, and there's a huge focus on building those strong relationships internally and externally, as you're always liaising regularly with people to make sure things happen when they're supposed to. It's also really beneficial to have a scientific background so that you understand our clients' objectives and you can support them to manage their communication solutions. And then an integral part of the role, which I've mentioned a couple of times, is that financial management piece where you will ensure that all the aspects are covered from a financial perspective, whether that's budget development, updating the budget as you progress through a project, looking at how you reconcile that at the end of the project to kind of tracking and invoice scheduling throughout as well. So just worth highlighting that we've got 4 different office locations. The majority of the roles at the moment are based in the Northwest, but what we do is ensure that we train in various office locations face to face, as well as bringing everybody to one location for the first couple of weeks so that you all have a chance to interact and meet with your colleagues. Okay, so that was the programme. I'm going to pass over to Matt to talk to you a little bit about the recruitment process.
Brilliant. Thanks, Anna. Yes, so we have a fairly thorough recruitment process for Drive and all our Allegro programs. I mean, I know from chatting to a lot of entry-level candidates like you guys on the call, often when you're trying to get into your first role, a lot of people get feedback such as, they've tried to hire, the companies ended up hiring someone with more experience. And, as entry-level job applicants, you're probably often frustrated thinking, why am I losing out on entry-level roles to people with experience? And that's completely understandable. Now, thankfully, with Allegro, we're not hiring for people with experience we won't turn around to someone and say, we've gone for someone who's got more experience. But one thing we will do is we will thoroughly assess your various skills and competencies during the process. And in terms of what that process looks like, the first step is going to be a CV and cover letter review. So I review all of the CVs coming through, and then we decide who to move forwards with from there. The first step after that is going to be an assessment task. That's a task you complete in your own time. It takes about an hour and 20 minutes to complete. We schedule a time, we send it out, you return it, we review it and decide whether to move forwards. For people who pass the test, the next stage is a screening call with either me or another recruiter on the team called Kat. And then we decide who to invite to our assessment centres. We've got 2 assessment centres taking place in April. We'll have approximately 30 people each at those assessment centres. At the assessment centres, there's a range of activities, but just briefly, you can expect to have an interview, fairly standard job interview. There'll be an assessment task and there'll be a group task. We make job offers the day after the assessment centre, and for people who are unsuccessful, we offer one-on-one feedback calls with a member of the Allegro team. So even if you're not offered a position, we will take time to have a call with you to explain to you exactly what the feedback is, where things could be improved next time. And indeed, it's worth saying that sometimes people are unsuccessful on one assessment centre but come back to us in the future and are maybe successful second time around. And often their success is based on the fact that they've had honest feedback and that they've been able to take it away and improve for the next time. So how to stand out? Now, probably sounds like a very basic point, but your CV is really super important. It's the first thing we see, and a badly formatted CV will often mean a rejection. In terms of what we mean by formatting, then you need to make sure that things like the font sizes are consistent, that the font type is consistent, that everything kind of makes sense on the page, not too many walls of text. I have to review literally hundreds of CVs, and it's really helpful if you can, make your key skills stand out. If you put key information in the middle of a big long paragraph, it's less likely to be seen, and less likely to be focused on. In terms of other things, tailor the cover letter to the role. So if we're reading a cover letter for Allegro Drive, we want to see that you've thought about the skills that go into being an account executive, and that you've covered them off and on your cover letter and told us, whether you have that skills, how you acquired them, and why you're interested in the role in general. And another thing that's here, if you look in the bottom right, there's a mention of researching competency-based interviews and star responses. For folks who get through to the assessment centre, that will be super important. With the interview at the assessment centres, we use a star format for the interview. Now, the star format is where you're expected to answer a question in a set format. So you have to outline a situation that you're in. That's the S. The T is the task that you faced, A is the action you took, and R is the result. The reason we do that is we want to, the reason we use this format is because we want to see that people are able to sort of follow a brief, as it were, really, and tailor their answers, use the format. It's a bit of an artificial way of answering questions, and we know that, but it does tell us a lot about someone if someone's able to do that well. And we're not the only company that uses this. So if you haven't come across Star before, it'll be helpful for an application with us, but also, maybe applications you make to other companies as well. So what are we looking for? One of the first things is 2-1 in or above in a life science degree. That's a long-standing principle we have in the Allegro team to look at people with a 2-1 or above. It doesn't strictly have to be life sciences. If you've got a background in chemistry or something like that, you'll still be considered. Unfortunately, we can't look at anyone who doesn't have a science background at all. The role does require a science background. We look for people with good attention to detail. If we see spelling mistakes on CVs and cover letters, that's often a no. Make sure you've really proofread anything before you sent it to us. Medcoms is an inherently fast-paced industry. It's not always constantly busy, but it does get busy, and as a result we look for people who are motivated, lively, and want to work in a fast-paced environment. I'd always tell people, don't come into Medcoms for an easy life. I mean, it's a good career and a great industry to work in, but it does get busy. Open-minded is helpful. Solutions orientated is another big one, and we're looking for people who want to learn, who appreciate that they're just sort of starting out on this journey, and are open to hearing different perspectives, and willing to learn. So how to prepare for a role as an account executive? I mean, project management is one of the key things. If you're still in academia, then extracurricular activities are a great way of gaining this experience. So if you're able to participate in university societies or anything like that, that's good. I know that's not possible for everyone. If you've got to work part-time, then that's going to make it difficult to find the time to do that. But if you are working part-time, you can often gain these types of skills in employment as well. Teamwork. Medcoms is hugely team-based. You're not an island independent to anyone else. You're working with other people. So any kind of collaborative settings, be it lab work, part-time employment, anything like that, you need to hone your communication skills to work in Medcoms, and so any focus on teamwork would be helpful. And also do your research. I mean, we can't pretend that the recruitment processes for our programs aren't competitive. They are competitive, and we are looking for people who can tell us why they're interested in this industry, why they're interested in Drive specifically. We want to know that you've thought about this, and we want you to have a good answer as to why you want to do this. So make sure you do your research, and when you're asked why do you want to get into Medcoms, have an answer that's compelling and demonstrates that you've really thought about this and you've done the background reading. And that's all from me. So I'm going to hand over to Maria, someone who's actually been through the process, to tell you about her experience of going through Allegro and working here at Inizio.
Thank you very much. Hi everyone, I'm Maria and I'm an account executive here at Inizio Medical. I've been an account executive for about 7 months now, so I'll just talk you through kind of how I found my way to Medcoms and to the programme in particular. So if we can just go, are we on the right slide? Yeah. So I started off doing a degree in human biology, a BSc, at the University of Birmingham, but I quite quickly realised that the lab wasn't really the environment for me. I'd heard about Medcoms kind of briefly as part of a uni careers talk, but I wasn't quite sure if it was the right thing for me. I wasn't quite sure what it was. So I moved back home for about a year and I just worked in an office job, and I was working in occupational health at the time. And I sort of tried to progress my career there, but I kind of realised that there wasn't the support and the mentoring that you need to kind of take those first steps in your career. So I started looking for other jobs in the pharmaceutical healthcare industry, and that's when Medcoms came back up for me. And I stumbled across the Allegro Drive programme. And not many people kind of realise that there's actually this other side to Medcoms, kind of away from the actual writing and content development. It's this client services side, where you're really overseeing and driving the projects and managing it from that side of things, but really, as Anna mentioned before, acting as the glue that holds all those different moving parts together and keeps things moving in the right direction. So after a very pleasant application process as far as graduate programme applications go, I landed myself a place on the programme back in January 2024. And within the first day there, I realised that the programme and everyone there were really there to support you to taking those first steps in your career and growing into your role. You've got lots of different kind of points of contact within the business, and they're all really there to help you excel. So after the 6-month programme, which is really enjoyable and quite a lot of fun, we had a really nice graduation get together, everyone on the cohort. And 7 months down the line, I am an account executive now, and I can honestly say that I'm enjoying it just as much as when I first started, if not more. And one of the nicest bits about the programme is that you kind of develop this network of people on your cohort that are in the same boat as you. You kind of join at the same time. Everyone's looking to make friends, but you make friends with different people in different cohorts, and you end up with this really nice network that spans across the business of different people that you can tap into, not just for support with work, but also if you just fancy a bit of a coffee break. If you can just go to the next slide as well, I'll just talk through a kind of day in the life. So if we just, there we go. So you kind of come into your day, you check your emails, you loop in with your team, you see what needs to be done this day, what do you need from your team and what do they need from you, and you kind of set the scene of maybe what does everyone need to get done today, or even in looking ahead to the week ahead. A big part of your day is project management. So this is things like timelines and updating clients via your kind of status reports, but no two projects are the same. So it's not kind of running over the same things over and over again. There's lots of different bits and bobs, and you also have to figure out what needs to be done to keep things moving along. A big part of your day is calls. So it's attending calls internally with your team, running through the status, kind of identifying challenges and proposing solutions, but also prepping your team for those calls, for both internal calls and calls with your clients, which is really nice, kind of FaceTime with your clients, building those relationships, and then also kind of writing up your notes afterwards, making sure everyone's on the same page. Finances are a big part of the role, so that can be kind of taking a brief from a client, developing a new budget and a new scope of work, which is kind of like an agreement that you have with your client. Managing projects, but then also as you kind of grow into your role, you get involved in these really interesting discussions with kind of senior people on kind of revenue targets and how are you going to look to meet those, and they can be really fun to be a part of. And I've included collaboration at the end here, but really it spans your whole day. You're constantly working with people, different teams internally, different teams externally, really being that glue that holds people together. And it is fast paced and it is dynamic, but it's really fun. And everyone here at Inizio is really lovely to work with. So it's nice to be in that collaborative environment. So that's everything from me.
Thanks so much, Maria, for sharing your insights. I'll just hand back over to Matt for the last couple of slides before we do a Q&A. You're on mute, Matt.
Someone has to do it at some point, right? So yeah, I mean, I don't think we've had any questions yet. So if you guys do have questions, there's a Q&A box. Hopefully it's working for you guys. If you do have any questions, start throwing them into that that Q&A box, and we'll start answering them in a moment. But yeah, so for this current round of recruitment, here are the key dates. So we're running assessment centres at our Macclesfield office on the 9th and 10th of April. So that's a Wednesday and a Thursday. Applications are still very much open, by the way. So if you haven't applied yet and you want to, head to LinkedIn, you'll find adverts there. Start date is almost certainly going to be the 12th of May. That might change, but 12th of May is looking most likely. And then there's 2 weeks of initial training, week 1 in Macclesfield, so 2 weeks of full-time training. If you are thinking about applying to this this round, just know that those first 2 weeks of full-time training, you need to be around for those. So if there's a chance you might not be available for 2 weeks from 12th of May, might be the case that we might not be able to progress on this occasion. But if you're not sure about anything, you can always get in touch, and we can discuss it.
Perfect. Thanks, Matt.
Excellent. And yeah, for keeping in touch, there's lots of different ways of doing it. All our recruitment updates are posted to our LinkedIn page, which you'll see there, allegro_Inizio medical. Our website has lots more information on our programs, also has other webinar recordings. So if this was not enough for you and you want to see more, you can find more there. And then for any email inquiries, you can go to allegro.inquiries@iniziohealth.com, and that comes through to us.